In the Gospel of John, Jesus is on his way south, about to enter Jerusalem. By the time he arrives at the house of his friends, Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, Lazarus is dead and has been dead for 4 days. Mary and Martha are bereft. Grief is everywhere. Jesus' visit has gone from communion to funeral. It's become one of bereavement care. Tries to be stable and practical, but both she and Mary say the same thing to him. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Everyone is crying, including Jesus. And then, knowing what he might know about what's coming, he prays, performs a miracle, and brings Lazarus back to life. This seems a fitting story for All Saints' Day, which we're observing this week in the Old South community. One thing I have learned is that All Saints is a season for us to remember and to honor who and what we have lost, be they human or animal, literal or conceptual, to observe our grief. I wonder, though, for some of us, if this story is a bit like salt into a wound. Jesus resurrects the brother of his friends, and in so doing, he wins hearts and disciples. No one I have lost has been resurrected. Between the realities of biology and the relentlessness of this pandemic, death feels everywhere. The closest experience I have with death is with my grandmother, whom I claim as a spiritual ancestor, Pauline Marie Young. Pauline came from Indianapolis, Indiana, and she, along with my great-grandmother, raised my father and his 6 brothers and sisters in central Ohio. Pauline, or as I called her, Nana, was a regular church attendee. As it is for many of us, including those of us in the Black church community, church was a spiritually nourishing place for her, a space not just for spiritual direction, but for community connection, a space to go when the world was beating you up, a space to share when you had a little extra that week, or to receive if things were a little lean. She took me to church plenty, which it was fine, if maybe a little dull when you're 7 and you have to wear itchy stockings and stiff shoes. But my clearest memories of Nana are of her joy. The joy Nana received from her relationship with God was a constant source of strength for her. She made sure that I knew I was loved by her and by God. Regardless of how her health deteriorated, she continued to call on and worship Jesus, and her steadfast love of God continues to inspire me. If she ever had doubts, I never saw them. If she ever felt scared or alone, I didn't know. Lord, if you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died. In their grief, Mary and Martha don't know, like we do, about Jesus' divine timing. He hasn't arrived fashionably late, but is in fact going to perform a miracle to reunite Mary and Martha with Lazarus for the glory of God. But what is the nature of miracle within our grief? We want Jesus to solve our problems. We want miracles like those that were a part of his ministry. Fill our empty belly and cupboard, Jesus. Heal our aching body and broken heart. Rescue us from the brink of global destruction brought about by our careless stewardship of this planet. Rectify the centuries of injustice and violence that we have created. Resurrect what is dead, even what we have allowed to die or have killed. For many of us, the story of Lazarus is not our story. Jesus does not go to our graveyard or crematorium and call our loved one back to life. I could use my own feelings about death to talk about the transition of souls and unity and eschatology. But instead, I want to talk about the nature of ancestors that live through time. Those we have lost are part of our stories, and maybe we are also part of theirs. Not just because we remember them, but because as our ancestors, they continue to live in us, with us, and through us. Their narrative changes because of us, and our narrative grows for being shared with theirs. My grandmother, Pauline, died last year at the age of 91, at the height of the first wave of the pandemic, though she never had coronavirus. She was surrounded by as many of her kids and grandkids as the pandemic would allow. I was here in a hot apartment in Cambridge, hoping to pass my summer Latin class in my funereal garb, trying and failing to log on to the website that the funeral home used to host the service. I was never actually able to see her or my family or participate in any way because, technology. Instead, I wound up collapsed on my sofa, angry, hurting, sobbing in a pair of itchy tights and stiff shoes. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Where were you? He was hurting. I was suffering, and you were nowhere. I was alone. I have said this to God. When I am angry, when I have failed, when I have hurt someone I love, when I have sinned against a stranger, been beside myself in grief, I have believed the lie that loneliness and pain and struggle have told me that I was alone. Maybe you have too. But it is a lie. Jesus spent his time among those who were lonely during his ministry. He was present in the places and the moments where others didn't want to go. And even now, he is present where we don't want to go. We have wanted to look Jesus in the eye, our own eyes burning with anger and sadness, and to say, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. My sister, my lover, my daughter, my mother would not have died. My dream would not have died. My marriage would not have ended. I wouldn't have lost my job, my relationship. I wouldn't have dropped out. I wouldn't have picked up. Lord, you could have saved me from this. I wonder if for Jesus in this story, for all of us, if the saving is the easy thing. Perhaps the harder thing for Jesus, definitely the harder thing for us, is to be with the loss and what it provokes. The anger, the fear, the emptiness and sadness. To dwell with it and not try to rescue us from it, just to be with it. I wonder what miracle is made possible if we look up and see, feel, acknowledge that Jesus is with us, even in our loss. What presence, what endurance, what sweetness within sorrow and capacity for being alive is with us when we allow Jesus to be with us in our grief. Friends, I invite you into an experience of contemplative prayer with me, a practice inspired by those of our Buddhist siblings. If it is comfortable for you, softly close your eyes and take a few slow, deep breaths into your belly. In your mind's eye, visualize yourself in your space. Perhaps it is this sanctuary or your home, or perhaps it is wherever you are within the sound of my voice. See yourself there and see the room around you. And now see one of your spiritual ancestors beside you. They may be sitting or standing. They may be close to you or far away. This ancestor may be long dead or recently dead or even still alive. They may be someone you know well or someone you have never met. See their face. Notice the expression of love and affection they have as they regard you. Feel the love emanating from them to you. And now see another spiritual ancestor enter your space beside you. Perhaps they place a hand gently on your shoulder or lean their head softly against you. You feel strengthened by their presence, affirmed by their closeness to you. And now there are a few more ancestors gathering around you, affirming and loving you, supporting you with their affection, believing in you, close to you, continuing to teach you. A little at a time, allow the room to begin to fill with your ancestors, ancestors buried on these shores and others, ancestors of this family and others, of this faith and others, all who are holding you safely, certainly, with the love in their hearts, love and hearts that continue to beat to the same rhythm as your own. Feel yourself surrounded by this love, wisdom, and encouragement of the ancestors. Perhaps among them all is our brother, Jesus. Amen.